Apex Online Racing is sponsored by Elgato, who created this lovely stream deck. For more information about the stream deck, the link is in the description below.
Hello everybody and welcome to the final race of the season in the iRacing GTE League. This race is a final of more than one meaning of it. We have the final race, we have the final battle in the championship in all three classes, and I'm sad to say it will also be the final race commentating with Mr. James.
Yeah, it's a sad one, really. I mean, I've started my commentary career here at AOR, and I've loved every single minute of it. I've learned so much here, but I feel that it's not really time to dwell on me all too much. We've got a lot of action to cover this afternoon, and we're already kicking it off with the AM qualifying that is currently going on in front of your screens. We have a few times already on the board. Cohen Van Eyck currently leads with a 17.5 ahead of Elgato and Mamano. In the AM Championship, Alessandro Pontecorvi is currently in charge of that ahead of Thomas Kuhn. So Pontecorvi definitely in the box seat because of the fact that Thomas Kuhn is not here. So he's basically unfortunately wrapped up that championship, which is a slight disappointment. The other championships are still all to play for, but this one, although mathematically we still had a contender, he hasn't shown up, which is slightly a bit of a blow, but just means that they can all have a bit of a scrap 2005-esque where Alonso wraps up the title and we somehow then get Suzuka 2005, arguably one of the best F1 races of the post-millennia era. So they can just kind of dish it out and not worry about their championships.
Yeah, definitely, and that's something that we hopefully are gonna see. But today the fighters will battle it all out around Road Atlanta. This is also a track that is better known for hosting the Petit Le Mans, the Little Le Mans. So it's a track. How is the track? Do you feel is it a track where we will see? We've seen in the past where the Fords have been strong. Do you think we can see that again here, or do you think it's still the BMW that will be out there in the front?
Well, obviously, previous seasons you would have said, Road Atlanta, Ford, OP, no even point showing up anything else. But for some reason, this season, Ford has decided, nope, don't like Road Atlanta anymore. I'm not that fast here, and the BMW is vastly, it's just quicker, really. It just is. It will produce better lap times from the Ford around this track, given you push it hard enough, and yeah. We have a lot of BMWs here today, not so many Fords. Of course, we have a Ford in our main championship fight in the Pro category that we'll get to later. But yeah, the BMW is just vastly superior this weekend, and the Ferrari and Porsche will be hoping that in 2 days' time there will be a balanced performance that hosts it. And obviously, since our last broadcast, there has been some news from the guys over at iRacing that there will be a Corvette CAR GTE added to the service, and I am well aware that I'm pretty sure it will be added to next season's roster.
Oh, it definitely will be, and it's gonna be interesting to see what that car brings to the table. You know, one more in the mix, you know, gives just a lot of more drivers, you know, different opportunities. It's a mean-looking GT car. It, for me personally, have a bit of the wrong sound, as Daniel Mamano just goes P2. With actually, you know, we have talked about the Ford. It's still pole position here. We'll look at Mr. Elgato as the Pro-Ams are getting ready to get out. But yeah, the Corvette, it is a mean looking. It's gonna be interesting to see. I don't know if you did, but I was watching Mr. Broadbent's stream where he got early access to the cars, and he let a little bit of a rumor slide out there that all of the GTEs have gotten a downforce overhaul. So they will, everything that we know about setups for the moment will be completely redone. So every car will be fresh next season, which will be interesting.
It will indeed. I mean, that Corvette looked very, very planted to the track, so that is one indicator that it might be very, very quick and very competitive from the get-go. So we'll have to wait and see for that one. But our Pro-Ams are now released, meaning that the AM lap times are about to end. I think we have Pontecorvi and Jamie Smith out on track, but they're still struggling to set their fastest sectors out there. But yeah, it's gonna be an interesting one. Obviously, Road Atlanta, we've got very, very short lap times here, so drivers can kind of set their laps, come in, get a fresh set of boots, go out again, and repeat the cycle a lot, because it's only what, a minute 15 for these drivers around here roughly. So
I mean, 17 in the hands. Yeah, it's not that long, and it's a track that I've had a on-off relationship with in the past, as we just go on board with Alex Smith here, because it's when you have learned it a bit and have really driven around here, it has an amazing flow. But I would say, you know, when you come here first, it's a really difficult track with curbs that will kill you, and corners. If you see him get in here, take us around a lap around Road Atlanta.
So plummeting into turn one with Alex taking fourth gear, hits the apex quite nicely. He is unfortunately in a Porsche that can get a bit light over these curves, takes the mounting of the curb in turn 3, turn 4 obviously flat. These S's are going to be really touch and go. It will depend on your setup as to whether you can take it flat. Most drivers will, but some will not. Alex choosing not to use all of the runoff in the left-hander at the end of the S's there. You can use a lot more than Alex did there to gain a lot of time. Into the double square now. Alex choosing third gear, hits the apex a bit too hard arguably, but for the second one he gets it hooked up pretty well and hopes to try and get a good exit onto what is now a very long back straight. You'll notice that we've already pretty much done most of the lap, because it is a very short burst of turn 1, you get a small break between turn 3, and then you have S sections followed by a mini back straight and then that double right hander. But now Alex will be focusing on braking point around 100 meters, plunge onto the brakes. The Porsche, you can't use too much of the brake pressure, otherwise you will lock up. Try and use as much of the apex curve through there as possible to get a good run with this double right hander at the end of the lap, and that is a very, very quick lap and very, very intense lap of Road Atlanta. And Alex Schmidt set a 1:17.374 to pip the AMs and at least get in front of them, as Alexei Seleznev pips him by half a second to go P2 as Hooper goes ahead of him. But now Alport and Russell, the two Shazoo drivers, taking the front row of the Pro-Am grid now, with 16 sixes from those two, as we see a flurry of lap times come across the board.
Oh yeah, but definitely. And there was just a question in the YouTube chat about why they're so slow, because you were saying 15s. Is that the pro times or these quite slow times out there?
Well, it's a case of, I think the track temp is quite hot. Yeah, we're at 36 degrees, and we've probably got quite a bit of rubber laid down now, which on iRacing makes the track slower for some reason. But, yeah, well done on that one. I'm afraid it's not the best thing, but yeah, the rubber makes the track a lot slower. So it's just kind of a rough guideline of 1 minute 15s, and I think the pros probably can break into that barrier, but. Yeah, 1 minute quarter is roughly maybe the best that we can hope to see, but it was more of just a rough guesstimation of where you're going to be calculating your lap times.
Yeah, and we also saw from at least what I remember driving here, thought Smith had a lot more time into that last chicane. I know he's in the Porsche, and you have to be careful as we see a lot of them coming in to get that new set of boots that you were alluding to earlier. But you can in this chicane brake a lot later than you actually think. But still, you know, it's a fine line, because if you brake too late, you're just, you know, getting across it, and if you brake too early, you will just have a lot on there, because you can use a bit of the curb on the inside to just get the car turning. But we don't see, as Sluman gets up to P6, we don't see actually too much of a gap between a lot of the cars, although Alpol has a bit of a gap down to P2 of Russell here. The Chassou team drivers here quite fast out there.
Yeah, and also Alpol doing quite a miraculous task of finding time on his second lap, because he said that first time of a 16.6, and then he improved it to a 16.4, which is giving him that 2/10 advantage even, which is yeah, quite amazing really, to be at such a short track where you don't really have many places to gain that much time. Yeah, to be that far clear of his fellow classmates. So our Pro-Am Championship leader looking like he might even get that bonus point for pole position. Don't forget, that is very crucial in the fight. I think Alpol leads by around 19 points, I think it is.
Just take a quick look here. Alpol with the 95 points, and Broomfield with 88, and Owen Bly has gotten up there after a great result last time of 85, and then we have Hooper 84. So it's really close in the Pro-Am top, as we've come to expect, actually. You know, there was a car off track. Just getting here.
That was Ash Russell, our man, currently sitting P2. As I say that, Tom Hooper actually pips him to P2, so Hooper on a 16.609 ends his lap. Does he have time to count for another one? No, I don't think he will. So that'll be the end of Hooper its chances, and he'll be very disappointed that he's given away the bonus point to Ash Russell there, because he really needed to capitalize that if he wanted to make any indent in the championship. So rounding out our Pro-Am laps at the moment, that is the Chassou car, I presume, of
the Alpol.
Yeah, the 271 of Dan Alpol coming across the line. Really more of a solidification effort here. He's already well on pole. Can he improve any more? No, he cannot.
It doesn't look like anybody out there can really find more time. Broomfield has a better sector 2, but is slower than his personal best in sector 1 and 3. Let's see if he can get up there. 17-2. It doesn't really seem to be the best track for one of our championship contenders here, as Van Wolter is looking also in a Team Chassou car, trying to see if he can get across here. He has improved in both sector 2 and 3, and across the line in P7. Good sharing for the Chassou cars out there, as Alpol is now trying to solidify that pole, as we were talking about before, with a fastest first sector, not greatest second sector, and not the greatest third sector. Why do you think that we are not seeing too many improvements out there at the moment?
It's a tricky one, really. The track condition hasn't really changed too much. The temperature is exactly the same out on track right now, so it's kind of just an odd one as Alpol comes across the line and once again does a 16.7. So yeah, maybe Alpol, I don't know, maybe Alpol got lucky with a toe in his first lap that we didn't quite catch, or
Sluman.
Or yep, Sluman getting feisty with his car and pushing as hard as he can in the very nice Rothmans liveried Porsche, the classic livery. I'm just checking over Alpol's lap to see if he did get a bit of a toe assistance. I think he's a bit too far back to have picked up one on the back straight there. But yeah, Alpol managing to find time on that one lap. We did the 16.4, so that seems to have been the key to pole.
And Sluman going into the pits. This is a very difficult pit entry, probably one of the most difficult ones that the drivers are gonna encounter this season. In my opinion, at least, it's difficult.
The hardest of the season, definitely. I mean, I said to some of the people I was chatting to before this, make sure to practice the pit entry before you go into the race if you haven't already, because it is one of the worst pit lane entries in the world, in my opinion. It's so difficult.
It is, and it in the past it was on the outside. They have swapped where the pit lane were, but they had issues with when they got onto the track that was on the outside of turn 1, and they just had too many big incidents, and it was not an easy task to get, because when you're on the top there and go even further outside, that was difficult as well. As we are now getting some of our first pro-ams out there. We have the Kashoga now at the moment being the first pro driver that we will see a lap time from.
Yeah, Cass is now plunging towards that very, very misleading chicane. Interestingly enough, Philip Schiff has set purple sector 1 and purple sector 3, and he wasn't looking too hot in practice, but that's a very, very strong showing from the Shazoo driver there, so he's going to be one to watch out for. Apparently he was definitely not on my radar as Cass comes along across the lines at the first lap time of 1:16.7. Blair Man takes P1.
I think Philip Schiff pitted.
Well, that is very, very interesting. We saw last week, I can't remember who it was, but I think it was Bennett, who was on for a very good lap and then pulled out of it and couldn't really ever match that once he went again. So hopefully for Schiff, he'll be able to recreate the pace he seemed to have there. But interestingly, for our championship, right about now, Alex Bennett and Blair Mann are not the pace setters here. I mean, Bennett has a... unfortunately, I apologize that I think there is a slight technical issue there that our standings are not quite up to date, because Bennett has a 147 points haul versus Blair Man's 135. So I apologize that what's on your screen isn't quite correct. But the important thing in the Pro Championship is that Alex Bennett has a 12-point advantage over Blair Man, and that is the key to all of this. Which, first of all, we have to worry about pole position, because if either of those two drivers gets pole position, they will get a bonus point, which can very much change the outcome and the permutations that each driver needs to follow to win the championship, because that's a very close margin. But at the moment, I believe, without bonus points, if Man wins, Bennett has to be in the top 3. Whereas if he gets pole, I think he has to be in the top 4. So, if Bennett gets pole, he can change the permutations. And although there are points for 0x, I really, really doubt that we're going to see anybody get a 0x, especially someone who's pushing up at the front of this race, because this track, as you can see,
who was that?
They're in one of the hardest corners of the track. We'll have to see if we can find who that was that has just binned it at the top of the S's there.
It was Hoganal.
Yeah, it just drops it on the gravel. It's such a easy thing to do there. You're pushing it to the absolute limit to find the maximum amount of time, and that is pretty much the end of his qualification. No, he's got enough time to go around for another outlap, so he's still got another lifeline there. So we'll have to see how that goes, as we have a spinner on the exit of the right-hander. I will have to see who was that, or was it just smoke? No, it was Andy Gorton, actually. Andy Gorton, who's currently on the front row, sitting P2, just drops it out of the second right-hander of the double square, and that will mean that he, once again, will only have one more life to be able to try and improve his lap time. But interesting enough, the Fords that all week haven't actually looked that strong here, in the hands of skippers Andy Gorton and Blair Mann, seem to be doing a sterling performance, putting in 1, 2, and 3 on the grid so far. So Alex Bennett going 4th position right now. He does have time, if he wanted to escape and put on a fresh set of tyres, but it doesn't look like that's going to be the case, and he's just going to keep pushing around. But like I said, the Ford looks pretty slow compared to the BMW all week, but we've gotten here to AOR GTE League, and our Ford drivers are clearly proving me wrong on that one. I'm proving everybody wrong, because everyone was expecting the BMW to just be miles and miles away from the rest of the cars, but nope, the Fords would have been adamant. No, we're keeping our Road Atlanta advantage.
Oh yeah, definitely. And one thing that I saw before was that the pole time that Shepard's got in was he got a tow from Mr. Gordon. So the tow also being quite strong around here, as we have this long back straight as well on this short lap. So that's really a point where it can get, you can really use that tow. So that might have helped them. But yeah, it's interesting to see. And let's see, as Bennett is now personal best in sector 1, personal best in sector 2. Not the greatest sector 3, but let's see what is get fastest in final sector, and he will get pole.
Second on the grid, so close. Only 7/100ths of a second separating him from that bonus point that would greatly help his chances of retaining this championship. But he's still currently ahead of his teammate and championship rival of Blair Mann as we watch the BMW here come through the final chicane of Philip Schiff. Where will Schiff go? Like I said, he seemed to have found some pace in qualifying with those sectors. He's not improved as much on this lap, but he comes across the line and goes 7th position, which is unfortunate for Schiff because he just looked like he was on a really good lap before, but this time clearly not being able to put the pieces together. We watched Gorton, who of course had that spin in the double right. Can he do anything about his grid position as he comes across the line to set a purple final sector? And that puts him... Oh, well, it doesn't actually put him anywhere because it was an invalid lap time. So
yeah.
that
As Halliwell
is
go P4.
Yeah, Halliwell bumps up to P4, which Alex Bennett will be great to see because that demotes Blair Mann, who is still on a lap, down to 5th. But this is going to be really, really intense stuff for Blair. He's got to do something about his grid position if he wants any chance of being able to take the fight to his teammate here for the championship, because it's just he needs to be ahead. He needs to win this race ideally, and it's going to be so hard to win the race from 5th. But now as he plunges down the back straight, can he get the time back? He's set up yellow sector 1, but he's improved in sector 2 and sector 3 now. Slamming on the brakes, the forward brakes very good, obviously down into that final chicane and using as much of the exit curb as he possibly can get away with. He's going to come across the double right-handers now. Where is this going to put Blair Mann? He doesn't move up anywhere. No, he does. There we go. He goes P2. So crucially ahead of Bennett, but not getting the bonus point for pole position. But I don't think that actually changes his permutations all too much. So as I think Gorton is our last qualifier, that will be it from qualifying.
And what a crash he got at the end there. Let's see if we can get this to show.
I think we still got about half a minute until
that's the thing. As we see the iRacing marshal there with the flag, just waving it like it's nobody's business. He's a dedicated man. He joins us on all the races. It's incredible how much he travels during a season as well. I don't know if he's in charge of the employers, but there's nobody who can change, and swap the cones like iRacing can. But yeah, we have our starting positions.
So here is the grid then. Mike Scapers taking a somewhat surprising pole position. He's been quick this season, but he's been a bit of an irregular attendee, so it's been a bit hard to get a grips of his pace. But that is I think a maiden pole position for the season for Scapers, followed by championship number P2 Blair Mann, not getting that bonus point. Neither did his teammate Alex Bennett in 3rd position. Andy Gorton and John Halliwell line up in the rest of the top 5, and then Dan Alpol taking the pole position for the Pro-Am category, getting that bonus point, which extends his championship point lead now to 20 points. So basically, if Hooper doesn't win, he is champion. Hooper, like I said, there is P2 on the grid in the Pro-Ams. Michael Edens doing pretty much the standard job for Michael Edens, the consistent sort of P8, P7 kind of man that just picks up those solid points there. Philip Schiff still qualifying 9th overall and 7th in the pro category. Good job from him. Ash Russell starts 10th and Alexei Seleznev behind him, with Sluman rounding out the 6th row of the grid. Moving on, Cass Hoganow is now qualified on 13th. He'll be joined on the 7th row by Andreas Lutus. Wessel van Wolde keeps Alex Schmidt company on the 8th row of the grid. Those two Pro-Am drivers kind of having, I think the way to describe their seasons is just a bit underwhelming, to be honest, that they've not really shown up as much, and they'll be hoping that they can try and make their way up the field and score some good points to end off the season. Owen Blythe, who was in such a strong and commanding position earlier until we got to Sebring in the championship and has now kind of let things slip away with him, is joined by Chris Yardley on the 9th row. Stephen Brumfield, the other man that was really in control of that Prime Championship with Owen earlier on, is down in 19th position, joined by Luca Lodato, our pole man in the AM category, on the 10th row of the grid. Victor Matios is 21st alongside Roberto Edouard, followed by Mamano, Van Eyck, and Jamie Smith, followed by Pontecorvi, Meisner, Reyes, Cooper, and then here we have our non-qualifiers of Martin Nadlik, Falco Verkamp, and Darius Sasu, and Thomas Kuhn, who has actually joined us, which keeps our AM Championship alive.
Interesting.
However, also, when I say Martin Nadlik, I think Martin Nadlik will not be joining us in this race because he has disconnected from what I can see, so we will not have a Nadlik on the grid. So Kuhn, who is on the grid and on the formation lap, is here in his Ford, which, as we've seen, actually isn't that slow as I thought. So he's still got a chance, albeit a slim one, but he still has a chance to take that AM Championship.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna be interesting to see, and the CRG guys have kind of slimmed down, so there's not too many of them who can hit each other. So we actually only have the two championship contenders at the moment.
We have Cass as well, but arguably the three cleanest and most incident-free drivers of the season. So they'll be lucky. Well, if that is really the case, and they have no incidents because of that. So we'll have to see how that plays out. Obviously, still going for a championship means that things might get a bit heated, but we'll have to see how it plays out as we head now onto the back straight. We've got obviously the two Fords at the front of Man and Scapers leading from the pole. It's quite a short formation lap here. Obviously, we still have the full formation lap because of the age of Road Atlanta's scan, so we have to wait for the drivers to go once around before the pace car will pull in, and we will be set underway for the finale of this AOR GTE iRacing Season 11, and we will have to see who at the end of it will be crowned champion. God, this pace car seems very slow when it's on the back straight.
Well, it always is, and now I'm gonna race in a league where they're using the safety car, and when you're driving around, it's just so slow. It really is. But yeah, as we talk about now, they're coming up to the start finish, and it's Mike Shepherd who is leading the field. The red lights are now on. We're waiting for it to, and he's going early.
Skip is getting a very good launch then. We've got the two comrade championship rivals going side by side into turn one. Which one of them will be forced to bail out? And it looks like Blair Mann's going to be the one that has to pull out of that. And Lawson challenges him into turn three, but he manages to keep the position, does Mann. So not the best to start for trying to take the championship lead off of your teammate. And that really puts Bennett in the box seat behind as everybody filters through the S's. We've got two wide there behind, but I don't think...
Blair Mann off! Man off! We have Blair Mann crashed on top of the turn here. I can't remember what it's called. Ooh, just got a little bit too much curb, and that is... Ooh, and just into the tire barrier.
Alex Bennett will be counting his lucky stars right now, because that is pretty much the perfect start you could have hoped for. Although, obviously, you don't really want to see a teammate crashing too much, but when he's fighting you for a championship, I don't think he cares too much about that. So, Bennett really in the box seat today. And, I mean, Scapers, unfortunately for him, he's doing such an amazing job out front that we're not really going to end up talking about him too much, even if he does a phenomenal job today. But that's really put Blair Mann on the back foot as we watch now Ash Russell under pressure from Alexei Seleznev in the bright pink Hello Kitty BMW going through that final corner. Seleznev gets wide onto the grass.
That's a good save.
He does a very good job, as you rightly say, to...
Oh, that's a crash. Ash Russell in the wall. That's a hard hit. And who was it that he was hitting there?
It was Alexei Seleznev. No, sorry, that was Andres Lutis. Sorry, inside. Ooh, that's
as we see here, Lutis just not turning and just hitting Russell straight into the wall. Nothing Russell could do there, and I think
Lutis didn't come into the corner by himself. So yeah, it's a complete misjudgment from Andreas, and unfortunately, Ash is kind of the innocent bystander there and just ends up getting put in the walls. We have Alex Schmidt was battling Wessel and Walder, but that was going on, so Wessel gets ahead as we watch Blair Mann trying to filter his way through the field. But with only really one overtaking opportunity at this track, which is into that chicane, you have to wait the entirety of the lap to get past one car. So yeah, Blair's going to have a lot of work to do, especially if his car has picked up a little bit of damage on the rear wing there. And actually, he's not going to be doing the overtaking. Has the V3 Racing Ferrari of Merlin Cooper in front of him that's decided to go on the initiative. And actually, there's contact with Darius Saki going into the chicane. I'm going to have to quickly rewatch that. Yeah, no, that is pretty much direct contact. There was probably half a centimeter of net code in between, but those two cars were pretty much going to touch anyway. So, yeah, I mean, Blair Mann gets a position, but he also rear-ended the car in front of him there. So he's going to have to watch out and see if he's picked up any damage, which he has on the front end. He's flashing his lights. He's really, really not happy. He knows that he's got to get past these cars if he's got any chance whatsoever of getting any points to try and fight for the championship. But right now, I think he's still getting points in the pro category, but it's not enough by any means to pick up the points he'll need. And he's actually there's a tough defense there. And actually, Blair Mann's been hit by Merlin Cooper going into the first of the double right, and Blair has disconnected. And that, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, means championship done. Alex Bennett is your pro champion.
Oh, and he turned in. It looked like he just wanted that a bit too much.
Merlin putting up a big defense for... I mean, personally, I don't understand why you're defending against a man fighting for the pro championship that hard, but yeah,
that's true.
And then it kind of, unfortunately, impatient people do impatient things, and Blair just gets too close to Merlin, and that's the end of his race.
So that's the pro championship bit done and dusted, as I am just looking for the driver. There we go. As we have Mr. Bennett coming closer and closer to Shapers. It's going to be interesting. We were talking about that the BMW has a little bit higher top speed, so interesting to see if he can get him into the chicane, as he's looking really, really racy, Bennett, and can now kind of drive without any fear or anything, can just really pile on the pressure, as I saw a couple of guys, as we have Smith and was that Boulder, Smith and Broomfield, I think, going side by side and having a little bit of an argument and a bit of paints trading between each other there. Oh, just
very, very close to getting on the grass. Will Van Wilder managed to actually get it stuck on the brakes, but he went very, very deep. That might give Bromfield a chance. On the exit there, he went and got the switchback move, and actually Schmidt takes the opportune chance of trying to stick his nose down the inside of Bromfield.
What a dive! That's not really a place that it's easy to get into.
It's kind of trying to get revenge from when Bromfield took him out in Daytona. I mean, it might still linger a bit because Schmidt was in a very good position that day. So I think he's trying to get revenge for that incident, and he really wants to get past Bromfield. He's all over the lines here, trying to look left, looking right, trying to get past Steven, but you just can't overtake here, other than really here maybe, and then the other straight, as we had, I think that was Schiff getting very aggravated over the radio. I'm presuming that would be at his teammate in front, perhaps, the Oh no, wait, there was a car slowed on the racing
Ooh,
line that was
that's
waiting which
Sasu, who we
yeah,
saw crash before. And
Darius Sasu, he's got a very, very wounded car, and he's trying his best, but Shift is getting a bit hot under the collar.
as we saw Schmidt just flashing his headlight at Broomfield, he's not a happy man behind there, and but I think Broomfield will do anything he can to defend that position, and he needs to get up there, otherwise his championship is not, looking good at the moment. He's P2, and as we actually have had a change for the lead. In the meantime, let me see if I can find that. It was actually happened quite a while ago.
No, I think it was last lap, perhaps, that happened, but
There
Bennett,
we have Bennett past Shivers, and
it was actually while there was the slowing BMW of Darius Sasu. Perhaps one of the drivers just picking a little bit of the toe or getting phased out there by the slow BMW, but that puts Bennett in the box seat to try and get a 4th win on the bounce to wrap up this championship. Like we said, he is already our champion of this season. His only contender is out of this race, and he will just, well, he doesn't even have to worry about coasting home now. He's got all the points he needs already. He can do whatever he likes in this race and just have at it with Mike, with Andy, and just see what happens there. And actually, John Halliwell is sticking with these top 3 drivers, which is, like we said, we've seen John pick up a little bit of pace recently. So he's doing pretty well up in 4th position. Maybe he can round off his season with an overall podium, which would be really good for him. Hooper has taken the AM lead from Dan Alpole, who has dropped behind Michael Edens, but it's still not enough for Hooper to overtake Alpole in the championship. Alpole still is well clear of Tom in that battle, so
the only thing he can really hope for is other drivers getting past Alpole as well.
Alpole basically has to DNF.
Yeah, the only thing he can do is winning the class, the race, and at the moment he's doing that. But one thing that is also a bit weird is Edens is not keeping up with Halliwell. We have seen, in the past that the Venom Motorsports pair have been as that, a pair of drivers that have been so close to each other the whole, not just this season, but past seasons as well. Just, being P5, P6, P7, P8, always being at each other, as Lutus just got past Smith. So Smith has just lost a position, as we saw him before being really, really close to Broomfield, and now he just got passed into the chicane.
Schmidt was pretty much giving up that position. He lifted off very early, and he just kind of let Lutus go. So maybe he's thinking, if I let him attack Broomfield, maybe I can get past him. But Schmidt also has picked up a bit of damage to his front end, but I don't think that was from contact. I think that is just the track. A lot of drivers you'll see end up bending their front splitters because the curbs and the bumps here just are so damaging to the cars that they do actually impact them a slight bit. So if you see somebody with a little bit of a bent front splitter on one of their corners, that is just the track. That isn't really contact with anybody already rubbing with other drivers. For our viewers at home, as we watch them all filter through the double right in that very, very long snake that is headed by Wessel van Wolde in the Pro-Am category. As we watch now on board.
Yeah, so
okay. With Luca Lodato down the back straight, obviously leading the AM category in that Ford. On the AM battle, Thomas Kuhn is still in this race. He's up to P4, and very, very importantly, is ahead of Alessandro Pontecorvi. And I'm just checking our championship at the moment.
Pontecorvi crashed.
Oh, Pontecorvi. That is really, really interesting in the championship, because Pontecorvi has an 18-point lead over Thomas Kuhn. But if Pontecorvi ends up having mistakes like this, and Kuhn can make his way up to the lead, even, that could be a really, really close fight for the championship. If Kuhn wins, I believe Pontecorvi would I think he'd fall about 1 point short where he stands right now. So Pontecorvi's really got to get a move on now and not lose any more positions. I mean, he's got one position behind him of Jorge Reyes that he can lose. So,
and we have seen Koum in this season had really strong races when he has been out there. He started this season as a reserve driver, so he hasn't even been here for all the rounds, which is also quite impressive and a testament to how much pace he's had in that Ford, but also just the consistency, because he has also been lucky. Was it Road America where Mamana was leading on 2 laps to go, and then he hit a back marker and went out from the lead in that race. So it has also been a bit of luck, but you need that in racing. You need to be there when the other drivers are having issues, as the battle for P1 is still quite close, and this is what we have seen all season long. The top 3-4 drivers being really, really close. But a thing that has also kind of been the norm here is that they don't really fight each other. They stay behind and save a bit of fuel, tires, and get it on the strategy. And what I'm saying that I think Gordon is maybe looking here. No, he's trying to stay behind, and because they know that if they keep on fighting each other, they will lose time. So they just want to get out there. I think it might be some kind of gentleman's agreement, as we see Broomfield definitely trying to attack Waldo, and Lotus have passed both of them. Lotus has really some pace out there.
Broomfield is trying to go around the outside there of Van Walder. I think Van Walder is really holding these guys up. I mean, look at how quickly Lotus is breaking away from the train. So Broomfield and I think Schmidt behind are getting very impatient. Broomfield goes down the inside.
Ooh, and a little bit of tip.
Oh, you just can't hold it around the outside. You just got to give up sometime, unfortunately. I mean, I will rewatch it just to see if there was really anything on Brumfield there, but it's kind of a case of turn 1. Brumfield does wash out a little bit wide, so that is it's quite touch and go. I mean, it is a corner where you can't really end up going side by side with both people at the same time. You still have to leave the car's width. So as Schmidt is getting on the radio, but I don't really see what for. But well, yeah, you got very loose in the same place man crashed, but yeah, other than that. But on the front 4 kind of not battling situation, I was actually chatting to Alex Bennett because he was talking about trying to hoping that we made sure that we went to tracks that have overtaking opportunities in future seasons, obviously for calendars. And I just joked about how, well, you're always at the front, and nobody at the front ever actually tries to overtake each other. So why do you care? Because they're so boring up in front, up 4. It's like, we don't care about you until like the last 10 minutes of the race, because all you do is you just sit there and slipstream off each other.
Yeah, and the pit stops is definitely where it creates a lot more, because we have the Gordon tactic of always under fuel. Hasn't really paid off for him this season. We thought it did. I can't remember where he got out quite ahead of the others, but he had to fuel so much more that he got into his place. But that is kind of the pit stops have been the key factor, and when there have been any overtakes, it has been one.
Gorton has just decided that he's going to advance his way up the field, going past Mike Scapers, our pole man, into P2 there. Maybe we will see an Andy Gorton under fuel today, but we'll have to wait and see whether that plays out. But yeah, I mean, we can see further back in the pack that at a track like this where it is harder to overtake, you've got the likes of Schmidt and Brumfield that were getting very impatient behind Van Walder. But yeah, it was just funny to hear somebody from the normal just slipstream trains up front saying that he wants to make sure we go to tracks where we have overtaking. Yeah. Because when do they ever use it?
They don't. Even at Monza, they were just like staying behind each other and stuff like that, as we see a battle between Marvin Sluman and Owen Bly for P4. the pro-ams are really fighting. That this is where a lot of the close fighting is going on. As we, although we have Tom Hooper up there in the mix of pro drivers, I think if we have or if we see Mr. Hooper next season, as I always hope, that the drivers come back to the season, and that we always get new drivers in. We want to see as many cars out there as possible, but I think he might be. I know that we had this conversation before, but I think with the pace that he's having at the moment, he's a pro driver. Alpol might be joining him, but again, let's see with the next season if they change the cars as much as they have. It might also change, the drivers. A driver who is fast will always be fast, but they might not be as fast.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing was that Hooper joined mid-season, and so he was still technically just in the championship fight, but Alpol was also so fast that he didn't actually make enough inroads that he could take that championship lead. So, I mean, he still got a chance, but Dan sat in second position in the Pro-Am category means that he's kind of just in the commanding seat at the moment. Nobody can really touch him.
Dan Alpol is a driver that has really blossomed this season. Let me just actually go up to Mr. Alpol. He's a driver that in the last 2 seasons has been having a lot of offs and a lot of incidents and not, having the greatest races, and now he's leading the Pro-Am championship. I think joining the Team Jisu might have helped him a bit, and just getting a team behind you that can help you with maybe just a bit of training, and maybe he's having a bit better setups, and that could help him.
I think also Dan has put a lot of work and practice behind the scenes to try and improve his pace, and it's definitely worked. He's chilling up with the pros in a lot of races at the moment. I mean, this race he's not as far up the pro field as normal, but he's still definitely well within it. Right behind Michael Edens for 6th and 7th overall, and obviously profiting from the pros tripping over themselves a lot as well for the overall positions that he's gaining. Alongside Hooper, who has been gaining a lot in terms of pace this season as well. He's gained a lot of iRacing, with that, which is one of the big talking points as to why is he still in Pro-Am. I mean, he's I think 4.2k roughly now, which is definitely a lot more than most
definitely. And as
the Pro-Am drivers out there.
As we just look at the strength of fields in here, the pros, the strength of field is the average driver in there is 4.1k. The Pro-Ams is 3k, and the AMs is about 2k. So yeah, he's up there. As Van Wolder has just had a off, and that is a big place to go off, and he just get hit there, and reversing back onto the track. That's not a good thing, but at least nobody were there to hit him. But that's not what I want to see. Be safe out there. Just there was no reason for him to reverse that much back onto the track.
Well, I mean, he probably looked at his relative, and there's probably nobody within half a minute of him there, so he just decided, I'm safe to do that. But yeah, when there are cars around, you don't want to see that kind of thing. But yeah, no, the only car that was really close to him was the car that just overtook him when he spun of Alessandro Pontecorvi. And then the next closest car was the leader, Mr. Bennett, who was all the way back in turn 1. So yeah, not really anybody around Van Wolder, who had such a promising start, was kind of keeping a lot of people behind him for track position and doing a good job there. But since then, when people have got past him, it's kind of unraveled a bit, as we have Schmidt behind Brumfield. We're still going on. Like I said, Schmidt still blood boiling a little bit after being robbed of a good result back on sort of the last lap of Daytona, and is still stuck behind Stephen Brumfield, both in cars that arguably really do need a buff. We'll have to see whether these do adjustments that they're making to the GTEs help them, or whether they are going to need a weight reduction or power increase or whatever. I mean, the Porsche really needs a power increase. It's so slow on the straights. It's ridiculous. Apart from when we go to Le Mans. For some reason at Le Mans, the setups mean that the Porsche is just the best car because you can just take all the downforce off and it still sticks, and so it goes fast on the straights, but every other track, it just doesn't have the engine to push through it. So we've actually lost Roberto Edouard now from our roster, so he's ended his race today, unfortunately.
Let's see what happened here. I can see here that he has had an off, and that's straight into the wall, and that's a hard hit, and yeah, that's his day gone.
As we are now down to 26 runners in today's race, as we focus back on the Alex Schmidt and Stephen Brumfield battle. Like I said, the Porsche has just got nothing to give on the straight line. Schmidt can keep up with him through all the corners and all the twisty bits because that Porsche is supreme through all of that, but Schmidt cannot do anything to get past Brumfield. So he has, from the sound of the engine notes, decided to just sit behind and lift and coast and save some fuel. But yeah, that Porsche is just really sad. Like, I can't remember what track it was, but we were comparing straight line speeds, and it was sort of like Ford 263 kilometers an hour, Ferrari and BMW 262, Porsche 258.
Yeah, I think
absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, it has been slow, and it has been slow for a couple of seasons now. It was strong the first season it was out. Maybe in the second season it was okay, but after that it has been nowhere near anything.
No, there was a brief period, I think, at the beginning of last season before the Ford got its big buff. The Porsche looked to be quite quick. It had very good acceleration and good traction, which on the new tyre model was really, really crucial. But then, yeah, with the balance performance changes that came along after that, we ended up with issues as, I believe... I'm sorry, I was having a few technical issues there on my side. But yeah, no, we saw the Porsche then fall a bit behind when the Ford got its buff, and then the Ferrari got a buff, and the Porsche didn't. So it kind of, ever since then, has stuck where it is right now.
Yeah, that's kind of, you know, sometimes the stories with these balance of performance, you know, it goes up and down. It gives and it takes, because you know, last season the BMW were nowhere. Like, it was definitely the slowest of them all. We had little to no drivers in it, and now we see here it's the fastest, as Gordon has just taken the top position. As Bennett has crashed. Alex Bennett has gone off the track. Let's see what is happening here. Is that just a too fast into the corner thing? Or what has happened? Ooh, just hitting the curb into the braking zone and getting back on there. And let's see. Now Shapers is putting on the pressure just a little bit.
This has really gifted Andy Gorton a chance. He's well away from Bennett now. He's 2.2 seconds out in front. So this looks like this could be a really, really good chance for Andy to take a second victory. Of course, he overtook Bennett on the final lap back in Watkins Glen to take his only win so far this season. But yeah, so I mean, Gorton has actually, interestingly enough, when he's attended and finished the race, he has finished on the podium in every single race so far this season, but only one of those has he been on the top step of the podium back in Watkins. So they'll be looking to double up here, as Bennett will be trying to fight off Scapers for P2. Like I said, though, Bennett is the champion, crowned because of Blair Mann's disconnection, so it doesn't matter where he finishes, but I'm sure he'd still want to finish up as high as possible when you finish a championship, because it always feels wrong whenever we have, in any championship ever, that you have a podium in the race where the championship gets decided and the champion isn't on the podium. It always feels wrong like that, so we still want to see Bennett as high up as he possibly can find himself.
Oh, definitely, and he will not be happy with himself if he can't get. As we just see Tom Huber getting past Halwell there, and getting up into the top 4. But yeah, Bennett will not be happy if he's not able to at least get on the podium, and maybe even be a bit sad because he was in the lead and he wanted to win. He's competitive like that.
Yep, also, just to focus back on the AM Championship battle, Thomas Kuhn has made his way up into third position, which narrows the championship fight down to, I believe, 9 points between the top two. So things are getting really, really tight between those guys in the AM Championship. When we thought it wasn't even going to matter because Thomas wasn't attending, he's shown up and he's still got a chance. All he's got to do is make up 2 more class positions, but they are quite a way down the road from him. He's got, I think, around 8 seconds, I think it is, to make up on the people in front of him to get that position. And he's got to hope that Pontecorvi doesn't go anywhere either, because Alessandro is currently, I can't make out the gaps because Alex Schmidt is currently pitting, doing what has been known as in the community as the Alex Schmidt undercut, where he decides that he wants to pit early to get out of traffic. They don't tend to work too often, but he still sticks with his guns and tries them anyway. But yeah,
have you talked to him about why he's doing that? Because
to be fair, there have been a lot of people that have asked him why he does that, and yeah, we're trying to convince him maybe to try the overcut instead, because it's much more powerful because you have less fuel on board. But nope, Alex likes his undercut and he's going for it again. But to be fair to him, there isn't actually much time until everybody else is going to be in the pits, as well as we hit around the half-an-hour point of this race. 28 minutes have elapsed so far, so we'll have to see how that works out. But yes, Pontecorvi, now that Alex has been through the pits, is 5 seconds off the position he needs to secure the championship. So he's going to have to make that gap up, whereas Thomas Kuhn is going to have to make up around 8 seconds to get past Luca Lodato for the lead of the AM category. But still got another hour of this race to go, sorry, 50 minutes of this race to go to see who will be crowned in that championship. It's actually Bennett, our champion that is crowned in the pro category, is starting to make grounds back on Andy Gorton. The gap was 2.2 when he made that mistake. It's now down to around 1.8, 1.9. So Bennett is starting to close it back down. Last time around, he was around 0.3 of a second quicker than Andy. So Alex doing all he can to try and get that win away from Gorton, and we'll have to keep an eye on that one.
Oh, definitely. And I'm sorry if I'm not talking too much at the moment. I am trying to update our program while I'm doing this. But yeah, he's getting closer and closer, and he won that win. You know, even though he has this championship, he won a solidified, and he won that win. Bennett is a driver that has, over the last couple of seasons, just, you know, increased in speed. I think it's he hasn't really had too many wins before this season, actually. So it's not, you know, it's not a driver who has been dominating a lot of the championships in the past. So it's really, for me, this championship has gone down to consistency from him, not being in the CGR battles and shenanigans that has kind of, you know, hit the league this season. He's just been there and taking the wins and stuff like that, as we see him and Shippers actually box at this point in time, and Hooper coming in behind them as well.
We will have to watch the pit times closely to see which one of these two come in very close, of course, and we'll have to see which one of them comes out in front. Obviously, the money would be on Bennett, but if he has been out in the front, like he spent most of this until he made that mistake, he won't have had the chance to fuel save as much as Scapers. So we will see how Mike gets on in the pit lane. Obviously, we can see that Andy Gorton actually did a good job of saving a lot of fuel behind Bennett, because he's gone for the extra lap. Obviously, with a short lap like this, you don't have to save too much fuel to manage to make the overcut work. And as we see Bennett pull away there, I'm just trying to
Shapers
check.
has undercut
Yeah,
him and passed him in the pits.
Scapers, yeah, definitely. I think Scapers actually might have underfueled. He only had a 16-second stop, which is normally a lot shorter than what we would see. We normally expect about a 20-second refuel, so we'll have to keep an eye out.
That's Andy Gorton fuel time, as we are just seeing a plethora of pits at the moment, as Gordon has now pitted.
To be fair, Scapers might have been anticipating the Andy Gorton under fuel and trying to counter it with one of his own and try and stick with Andy, which would actually be quite smart on him because it allows Andy to not get away with his shenanigans and actually keeps Mike in his slipstream, which is kind of the whole point of the underfuel, which is that it allows you to get people out of your slipstream so they can't fuel safe behind you. So you have to run the entire stint the same amount, which is still it's a good strategy, which sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. Andy has pulled it off sometimes, things like Watkins Glen, but other races this season hasn't quite worked out for him. As we watch Scapers coming around the final corner, heading into turn 1, where will Gorton emerge? Gorton
right
will
in
emerge
front
right
of him.
Scapers has made up time because he was 2 seconds off of Gorton, and he's now, well, what, a car length, 2 car lengths behind Gorton. So that's really help Scapers out a lot. He's going to be able to sit in the wheel tracks of Andy Gorton. Bennett will be just trying to keep that pace he had before the pit stops up and catch up to the back of them because he's only 1.6 behind Scapers. So it's not really looking good for Gorton, but Gorton didn't underfuel. He
No,
did a
exactly. That was the point I was about to make. He has not done the Andy Gordon underfuel, and that for me tells that at the moment, if Bennett can get up and hook onto Shaper's back, Shaper's might be in a little bit of a trouble here.
I think you're exactly right there. I think Scapers is in a whole heap of trouble here because
that is 3 seconds.
He anticipated the Andy Gorton undercut and it didn't come, and that has really affected him here because if Andy had undercut, then Scapers could have broken away, made Bennett push and use all of his fuel anyway. But now he's kind of the one that's made a fool of himself for the strategy here because he's now stuck behind Gorton, has to run at Gorton's pace, has Bennett possibly catching him up, and then he's going to have to lose 4 seconds in the next round of stops to Bennett. And I mean, everyone can look in the top left and see that Bennett is not 4 seconds behind Mike right now.
Oh, he's definitely not. And one thing that might be in Chipper's corner here is that he now can fuel safe by staying behind Gordon and hopefully not overfuel too much compared to the other two. So for him, that will be his only really thing in this race. But we are seeing a lot of the drivers taking the same amount of fuel. We hope that next season, I have heard some of the coordinators talk a little bit about it. It has not been confirmed or anything yet, but they are talking about increasing the fuel amount by maybe 2 or 3%, which will give the drivers, or maybe a little bit more, but maybe give them a bit more to play around with in terms of fuel strategy. And also that if you are saving from the beginning on some tracks, the one stop might be doable.
Yeah, well, we would have to, I think, you gotta work it out, try and get it just about right. I think my natural inclination would be 60% because we're currently on 55% tanks. 60% would give you that little bit extra, couple of extra minutes. Maybe it'd give you about maybe an extra 3 or 4 minutes normally, which kind of puts you up to that 35 band. So if you can maybe eke another couple of laps out, then maybe you could do a one stop, but it would be very track specific. Obviously, there are some tracks where you don't use too much fuel. We'll have to see. Obviously, there is, if anyone has seen the official calendars, there is the prospect of having Interlagos perhaps on the calendar next season, which I wouldn't be against if I was in it, because that could open up strategy because you don't use much fuel at Interlagos. So that could definitely be one. And things like, remember, I don't think you were here for it. I think you weren't in the box when we did Mid-Ohio last season, but nobody was prepared for a one-stop, and then it just kind of rocked up and was there. And people were a bit shocked by all of that when it came around, but yeah, the one-stop came and it caught everybody off guard, and unfortunately I don't think we can ever have it again because everybody's now wise to the one-stop, but the one time that we did get it, it came around and shocked everybody.
Yeah, and just you know, small changes to hopefully open up. I know that the calendar is not set in stone yet, but it is close to be. So most of the tracks have been kind of, you know, locked down, as we see Chris Yardley getting really close to Broomfield, as Broomfield just were a bit wide into out of turn 2 to 1 and 2, and that just cost him a bit time, and he needs to be careful, otherwise Mr. Yardley might be looking to get past her. And well, Yardley, as a lot of you might remember, used to have this big grin on his car, but it has gone since Mr. King has not been here. So it's always a bit weird, because normally you're completely sure which car was Yardley, because that always had that big shark grin on the front of the car.
Yeah, maybe next season with a different car, perhaps. Maybe a Corvette with a grin.
Ooh.
We could see. I feel like that could work. Obviously, the Bimmer is a bit harder to make a grin work, I understand. So perhaps that was maybe the issue. He couldn't make it work as we watched Dennis Meisner.
Oh, that's a hard hit. And just right back on the track, and just managed to stop that car rolling right in front of the lead pair. And he's, hitting the wall.
Very importantly, that is a position to Corby, as I think they have all navigated properly. But if that is a position for Pontecorvi, which it is, that puts Pontecorvi back safe in the championship. He's now safe on enough points that even if Thomas Kuhn manages to work his way up to the lead, unfortunately he has lost a bit of time over the course of this race. It's now up to 9 seconds, the gap to the class leader. So it looks like, despite Kuhn's best effort, Pontecorvi might just about have this wrapped up. We will have to see, though, as they come across the lines and see things updated with strategies and stuff. But yes, it seems that Meisner has definitively given that position away to Pontecorvi and gifted Pontecorvi a safety net in the championship. But yeah,
it's not an elegant way to really help a championship battle, you know.
True.
There are other ways doing it, you know, putting the front. It is a big front, but putting the front square into to a concrete wall is not the. Well, it's an effective way, but it's probably not one that is the most sustainable. As we see, Bennett has actually kind of caught up with the two battling pairs, and this is not what Shapers wanted, because that is P2 that he's having. You know, maybe losing at the moment, and he doesn't really seem to be able to get past Gordon at the moment. It looks like Gordon is maybe a bit slow, the slowest of those three.
It's interesting, really, because that minor damage I was talking about, Carl's picking up, Scapers has picked it up, Bennett has picked it up, but Gorton hasn't. So Gorton's the healthiest of the three cars, but appears that he might be the slowest of them all. But I think Scapers might be trying that strategy you talked about earlier, of saving as much fuel as he possibly can, and maybe not losing too much time to Bennett in the pit stop. So even if he does fall behind, he might be able to catch back up and re-overtake Bennett for that P2 overall. But he's still got a lot to work out and a lot to get on with, because it's going to be way harder for him to be able to do that if he doesn't manage to make the fuel mileage. So he's really going to have to wander and basically just try and make some fuel out of nowhere at this rate. But we will have to see how that plays out. And I'm just looking to see if we've got any other close battles out on track. We've got actually Dan Alpole putting I think that's Philip Schiff under a bit of pressure. The two Shazoo drivers, not for class position, but still for overall position and bragging rights between Alpole and Schiff. Alpole getting very close to the back of his teammate, actually. Will he be thinking about a move? He moves to the inside, and he will have the beneficial line, therefore, under braking for that chicane. Very level between the two Shazoo drivers. Which one will give it up? I think Schiff decides not to deal too much with his championship fighting teammate, but actually Alpole messes up. And actually Schiff getting over the radio asking, what are you doing, to his teammate? I know he's fighting for a championship, but surely the smart thing to do when you're fighting for a championship is just sit behind and wait. I mean, all that Alpol has got to do is finish in the top 7 in Pro-Am, and he's got the championship secured. So he's got to just sit there, keep with it, and you don't have something to worry about. But instead, he decides that, nope, I'm going to lunge it on my teammate. Does manage to make it stick, but he was so close to be taken out of the race that I personally would not have taken that risk.
No, for me, that's silly driving from Alpol, in my opinion. I think what Alpol might have been thinking about were that now he got a buffer between him and Zelenev, so that he can have, you know, not too much pressure from behind. But you know, from knowing Schiff, he will not want to be just, you know, staying behind and playing the team game. He want to be up there, and I think, you know, if he's gonna make a do or dive move, as he's just looking a little bit here, yeah, Dalpol has now put himself under more pressure than he might need it to. But also, you know, if he can get away here, that might be a good thing.
Also, Schiff's contract with Shazoo is expiring at the end of this race, so basically not really a Shazoo driver after today. So he doesn't really have many allegiances with them. He'll become a free agent at the end of this race, so kind of really has the liberty to do what he likes. Because I mean, obviously it's not a great advertisement to take out your team, as we see Jamie Smith having an incident at the top of the hill. This is where we've seen pretty much all of our incidents so far today, because it is still a very tricky corner, a bit blind, gravel on exit, so gotta be careful and vigilant through there as we focus on our lead battle. Still very close between them. Will Bennett try and get in front of Escapers and make his way up to the front of the field? He has been very inclined to lead from the front, to be honest, in a lot of these races so far this season when he's won. So maybe he'll be trying that strategy again, but at the moment, maybe with that double slipstream not quite being enough to get past Scapers. Also Schiff getting back on the back of Alpol as we watch this lead battle as well. Schiff moves to the inside on his teammate, and he moves back past Dan Alpol, basically saying, nah, this is my position, mate. Get on with it. Get on with your race. I'm not going to be helping you in this one. You've got pretty much one of the easiest championships actually, as we see Slowman down the inside of Owen Blythe right now. But yeah, Dan Alpol 20 seconds in front of the position he needs to secure the championship, which is Alex Schmidt down in 7th, around 19 or so seconds behind Dan. So Dan just needs to chill, keep your level head. If Seleznev challenges you, just let him go.
Yeah.
If Gas challenges you after that, let him go. You'll easily secure the championship with it anyway. Just gotta, sometimes the Alan Prost way of things, of just what position do I need, not get the highest position possible, because it's not worth it. We've seen with Blair Mann, he's pushed to the absolute limit, made mistakes, and lost any chance of winning that championship. So got to keep it clean. As actually Scapers feels the need to go defensive into the final chicane there. So he clearly trying to make a move. I don't know whether Bennett himself is, but we'll have to see how that turns out.
But as we just could hear on Alex Bennett, Mr. I Want More overtaking himself, lifted off quite early into the corner to not really go for a move there, and maybe it wasn't really possible as we have Seleznev getting closer and closer to Alpol. But this is the thing with, you know, the GT racing and especially this type here, is that they tend to get into these big clumps of 4 or 5 cars, and if you just lose a position, you can just lose a loads of position and maybe even a lot of time, because the slipstream is so great here. As we can actually see on Alpol that he has got a bit of damage on that front of the BMW, as I think, who's that getting past? Is that Mamano? I think it's Daniel Mamano.
Alessandro Pontecorvi.
Pontecorvi.
Giving up his, he's lapped, obviously, so moving out of the way of everybody around him. He's, like I said, he's still in championship winning position, P6. Thomas Kuhn starting to make a few inroads, actually, on Luca Lodato. He's now got it down to 6.7 seconds. It was 9 seconds when we focused on it earlier, so Thomas trying all he can to try and get back up to the front of this Anfield, but he's still got work cut out for him, as We are now past the half race distance, 46 on the clock, 34 minutes to go. So he's got to start making inroads and hope just somehow that Pontecorvi has an issue that costs him over 40 seconds as Meisner has lost so much time to him so far, or Pontecorvi just straight up ends up out of the race. Those are really Thomas's only chances, but he is still putting as much as he can to get himself in the right position to at least still give himself the opportunity to take that championship off Pontecorvi.
Yeah, and one thing that's also to be noted in that battle is that Van Eyck is actually, Koum is not getting closer to Van Eyck. They're both getting closer to Elgato, so we could see a sprint for that battle here in the last minutes. As I think my screen is just coming up with the Danish getting off a few times. Let's just have a look here.
Ooh, that's Dennis Meisner.
Doesn't look great there, and I think he has some yeah, if you're going that slow, and that this might be a time to just park the car at this point.
But also on that Van Eyck story, Cohen has actually got quite a sizable bit of damage to his rear end. The diffuser and rear bumper of that Porsche is very much out of shape for Cohen, so he's doing a great job if he is closing in on Elgato. They were, well, Cohen was about 200th quicker last time around, so still technically faster, but not really making the greatest inroads. But with how damaged his car is, that is still a great accomplishment. Just checking Elgato. Elgato's, I think, is either very pristine or only the slightest bit of damage that I can't quite notice, but I think he's pretty much in all working order. So Cohen definitely, I think, on raw pace, maybe the fastest driver, but Thomas was also about 4/10 faster than both of them last time around. So yeah, definitely gonna have to keep our eyes out on that, as Elgato does an 18.6, Van Eyck does an 18.6, and Koum comes across the line, does an 18.4. So Koum once again 2/10 quicker. So it's really hotting up there, but at the same time, he still needs Pontecorvi to disconnect, and I don't think Pontecorvi, if he can help it, will be one to give up on this one, because all he has to do is finish the race really with Meisner's issues, and he will be champion. So Thomas trying all he can, but it's not quite proving fruitful just yet.
And if we look at the times here, as we just have Merlin Cooper in the pits, I think Elgato made a mistake on lap 33 because he lost 2.2 seconds to Van Eyck, and that's not, faster times. That is simply a mistake, because that's quite a lot. As Cooper is getting out behind Pontecorvi. Yeah, he's.
I think Merlin can get to the end of the race from here. Of course,
Yeah.
Merlin, the man involved in that scuffle, which saw our championship contender in the pro category out of the race. I don't really think the actual contact was Merlin's fault. Personally, I still feel that perhaps it wasn't the wisest idea to fight so hard with somebody who's so far out of position but still fighting for a championship, because Blair would have been filled with red mist in front of his eyes. But yeah, Merlin choosing to defend, and Blair getting a bit impatient with it, and ultimately costing him the chance to take the championship. So yeah, we will. It's just such an unfortunate situation. We were expecting to have, quite a nip and tuck fight in the pros and see who could prevail in that championship, but unfortunately that was not the way it went. No, sometimes it's not a fairy tale story, and sometimes it can be quite boring in championships. And Bennett, who 1 year ago, it was season 7, 1 year ago, he got his Pro-Am title for winning that season. Now 1 year later, season 11, he has managed to progress his way all the way to winning the pro title, and has gained a lot of experience and pace along the way. And clearly, I think, especially from this season, with the consistency he's shown, especially in the back end of this season, picking up 3 wins on the bounce, really, really phenomenal job from him. And that will be, I think, a well-deserved champion at the end of this. And he can bring one back to the CRG stable, who have dried up a bit for championships as of late. The last championship they won, I think, other than team championships, I think, was Bennett himself back in that Pro-Am category. So
yeah, as the guy.
Kinskov as likes.
Yeah, but well, Pinske were in
Tepper last season.
Tepper, yeah. So and before that it was Woodford who was in the what's that called? Team called?
Radicals stable.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So so it has been a bit time, but I think Bennett's season last season when he won that Pro-Am Championship has really given him something, a championship mentality for this season as well. He knows what needs to be done to get that championship, and it's not to fight for every single position, but it is just to get the positions and get the points when you can. As we just look here at Thomas Kuhn getting slowly closer and closer. He actually took 4/10 out of Van Eyck on that previous lap, so that's quite a lot there. And it's gonna be interesting to see if Van Eyck is gonna give that one up. As we heard I heard a big crash there. I don't know what it was. Maybe a car exploding. There has been some smoke in the pits. Might be a car who has been there for quite a while, as we see him taking 2/10 out of Van Eyck again. And
Elgato doing an 18.3, Van Eyck doing an 18.6, and then Coombe doing an 18.3 as well. So Coombe and Elgato very similar on pace, it seems, whereas Van Eyck, I think, might be struggling a little bit with that Porsche and the damage that he has sustained. So he'll be trying to hold on, but he's just slowly, as you can see on your screens, losing time to Elgato and subsequently also losing a bit of time to Coombe, and it might only be a matter of time until he loses that second place position. But I think he still has a chance of keeping on the podium. Actually, yeah, no, they're 28 seconds ahead of Jamie Smith in fourth. So for them, it is pretty slam dunk in terms of the podium. And then it's more just about what happens with Pontecorvi and whether he can finish this race and complete the race distance required. If you missed last week out in Sebring where we had the disconnection, it is 90% race distance to score full points. We have a cut off cutting the chicane. That's Dennis Meisner having more issues, unfortunately for him. And yeah, really just not having a good day at the office for the Dane. So we will have to see if he comes back next season and hope that he can get back on to the front foot and try and get a bit better grips of the situation. But today, unfortunately for him, is not really about that. It's about this battle we're still focusing on in the AM category between Coombe and Pontecorvi, who, due to pit stops, has managed to make his way up to 5th position, but I think he still has one more to make, so we will have to keep our eyes on that. And then from that, we will see who can prevail. And in the Pro-Am Championship, Dan Alpole has decided he will stick behind his teammate, kind of just sit there. And unfortunately, there's not going to be any dramas. In terms of the show, it's a bit unfortunate.
Yeah, and that's how it is. But as we just see here in Van Eyck, as Elgato's lost 6.3 tenths last time, and now I think it's a bit weird. Yeah, there were cars in a bit, and he has gained a little bit here in the next lap, but I think Elgato just makes small mistakes where the other twos behind him is just up there, as we see Skippers in the pits now. One thing that AM class don't want is Gordon and Bennett getting up to them, because that is gonna lose them a lot of time. It's getting passed by these the pro drivers will lose you cannot lose you up to 2 to 3 seconds per car that needs to get past you. So it is quite a lot. I know that a lot of the pro drivers always complain about slow drivers and leaving space, but it is quite a lot that they're losing by letting the others by. So they really don't want that to happen. As Schiff is getting closer and closer to Edens at the moment, and that's a battle that is really heated up here. And I think, let's see if Schiff is gonna wait until a moment, you know, getting onto that back straight, getting that slipstream, and see if he can outbrake him, as they're just getting past Jamie Smith there in the BMW Hyperion Racing AMP car. He's you know, he's so far out of the top 3 pace that he's not, you know, just get by guys and keep on with your race, as Shift just had a little bit of a lag moment.
Yeah, as Shift has actually managed to, he's getting very close actually to Michael Edens, as they have caught up to, well, as they've been promoted into 4th position after that pit stop by Mike Scapers in the, well, I say 4th position in the pro category, 5th position overall. But yeah, no, Shift doing a pretty good job. I mean, he really didn't have a good race back out in Sebring, but he actually was on a bit of a bad form and then had a good result in Monza. Again, like I said, a bit of a rough result in Sebring, but is still doing very well here, still challenging for a top 5 finish, roughly. So he's got a good chance to end the season on a high. Like I said, he will be leaving Shazoo, I think, at the end of this race. It is when his contract expires, so he'll become a free agent once again. So he'll at least end his time with the Shazoo team, hopefully, on a high, as actually Halliwell is getting on the back of Hooper. So we have the two Venom Motorsport pair getting very feisty with people around them. And actually Halliwell loses a bit of time lifting and coasting behind
Ooh,
Hooper.
that's a car in the wall, and that's Dennis again.
That's Dennis, as that was also Eden's getting very out of shape as well. Let's just have a look at that again. I don't know whether Eden's got caught out because of Meisner's issue or what happened there, but that's really
could. Oh, Meisner, that's. Oh, that is not a good way, and he's. Well, at least he's getting off the track, but yeah, I think Eden's might have had a bit, and Meisner's finally decided enough is enough, and as we talked about before, not really being his day. But yeah, I think Eden's might have been shaken a bit there, because you're so focused and you need all your focus on that braking point, and if somebody's crashing right in front of you, just that one, you know, little second of a distraction can be enough between an amazing break and just crashing, as the two pairs of Gordon and Bennett is now. Let's see if they're getting one more lap. It's now 2 laps more than what Shavers managed to get out of that tank at the moment.
Yeah, Scapers is obviously had that very short pit stop earlier in the first round of stops, so we'll have to see. Obviously, a second of fuel going in here is actually quite a lot in terms of lap distance, because of the fact that the laps are so short. So you can probably extend by quite a lot if you have extra fuel in the tanks. We will have to see just how many laps this is for Gorton and Bennett. But Alex, I think, is perhaps in the better seat here, because Gorton will not have been fuel saving at all this stint. So the likelihood is that Bennett's stop will be a lot shorter than Gorton's. But then, having said that, Gorton, of course, pitted 1 lap later than Bennett, so he will have at least 1 overcut lap, presumably, on Alex, stored in the tanks. We will have to see which one of these two can prevail on strategy. But as they break into the chicane, is their advantage on fuel going to bring them in this lap, or are they going to go around once again as they come over the crest? Gorton pulls to the right, but no, he doesn't pit, and neither does Bennett, so they're going to go around once again. We're on to lap 47 now, as we hit the 1 hour mark left of this race. So these two drivers getting so much more fuel mileage because of that extra long stop. I mean, I don't think 4 seconds of fuel was going to be this much in terms of mileage, but apparently it is. So we will have to wait another round to see if they are going to make up any more laps on Scaper.
I think that
Kevin Van Eyck is down to 1.8 seconds behind Luca Lodato as well. So that gap is coming down a lot. So we will have to once again keep an eye on that as that's going on. And obviously, Thomas Kuhn, I think, has already Thomas made his pit stop, or did he make a mistake? I think he's.
I think he has made a
Oh, no,
pit
sorry,
stop.
Slowman made a pit stop and got in between them. That's
Yeah.
why I'm getting confused.
Getting a few more laps on the Delta there, and we can see it fluctuate between the two drivers. It's now live at 1.9, 1.2 as Jamie Smith is
Ike made his pit stop as well.
yeah, and Smith seems to have had one more off. Let's see if that what's gonna happen here is in the he just loses. Oh, that's a big hit. That's the end of the race for that BMW. Wow, what a hit.
Yeah, that is probably the end of Jamie Smith's day, because he's probably got so much damage that he can't even come out even if he wanted to.
And just he just he had a bit too much curb there, because he just lost the rear end of that car, and that's a lot of damage.
That is a heavy hit for Jamie. Our two leaders have stayed out, as Hogan out, Hooper, Lotus, Van Eyck are all in the pit lane, so we will see where they emerge. Of course, Cass having a fairly quiet race up at the top of the field. We will have to we have to give him another shout out. Like I said about Shift doing a good job, Cass doing a good job as well, fighting high up the field. Same with Halliwell. So a lot of drivers doing strong results at the end of the season here, as we focus on board once again with Gorton and Bennett. Will this time be the lap where they come around and veer off right into the pit lane? They take the first apex, they take the second apex, they move across to the right hand side. Will they pit in? They both pit in
Both
at the same time.
I
How
think,
boring.
Yeah, well, I think that could have happened with Shepers is maybe that he has pitted early, even though that he had less fuel, that he pitted early as well, due to maybe getting out and thinking that he might got slowed up by being behind Gordon. So that could be a way for Shepers to get out there and post some fast lap times on his own, as at the moment Alpol has pitted as well, so he won't take the lead. Let's
Gorton
see.
out in front of Bennett, but where do they rejoin in terms of escapers? Gorton actually gets quite a big advantage, but Bennett rounds the foot, and they are massively in front of escapers. They've got about 7 seconds behind them to Mike, so our pole man really not being able to capitalize on that, and is, unfortunately for him, lost out a bit from all of this. So we will probably just be focusing now on a two-way fight between Bennett and Gorton, but Gorton has a over a second advantage now behind Bennett, but Bennett was definitely the faster of the two cars in the last stint, so we will have to see whether he can repeat that act. He's only got around 15 minutes left, which is around, I want to say, like 13, 14-ish laps that he's got, so there's still plenty of time to play with in terms of laps, but the actual minutes are going to start closing down very, very quickly, and he's got 1.2 seconds to make up on Andy Gorton in actually around 11 laps. My lap count is telling me, so he's got roughly 11 laps to make up 1.2 seconds, 1.1 seconds now, so that's about a tenth a lap, so he's got a mission to do.
Oh, definitely. And yeah, I think, with this track being so difficult to overtake, I think Gordon has won that battle in the pit stops. Maybe if he needs to just not make any mistakes, but that's easier said than done. And if we just go back and look at our battles here down in the AMs, it looks like Lodato has increased that gap to Van Eyck with quite a lot. The gap is now up to 5.4 seconds. So if we just have a look at their pit stop time, I'll just get it here. Yeah, Lodato didn't put that much in the tank compared to those.
Maybe he is expecting them to get lapped. Maybe he's factoring that in, whereas the others are not, because a lot of people will be having their fancy fuel calculators out helping them, and those fuel calculators will not be factoring in whether they get lapped or not. So I think Lodato is banking on the fact that they are very close to
Yeah.
getting lapped by the likes of Gorton and Bennett. As I say that, actually, Coombe has gone a lap down to both Gorton and Alex Bennett. He's getting out of the way, and that's cost him a lot of time, like you mentioned, because
Yeah.
he slowed down for both of them at the same time, which is good for those two who are fighting out for the race win, but not good for his championship. But perhaps he realizes that unless Pontecorvi bins it within the next about 3 laps, as Bennett actually gets a bit wide there going through the S's, he's got to be careful. He's actually losing a bit of time as well to Gorton.
As I can see,
Yeah, Gorton has got the gap up to 1.3 seconds, so I think Andy's pretty much got this covered now.
Yeah, as we can also see that if we just take a look on the front of the car, we can see this here. He's also having a little bit of damage on that Ford there, but that might just be the curb damage that you were talking about, because the curbs around here, you want to attack them quite aggressively, but they also bite back.
We have also lost Alex Schmidt from throughput issues rather than him actually retiring. So he retired a couple of laps ago, but that wasn't from his own doing. That was a technical issue from Alex. So that's a shame from him. He was fighting up there with the likes of Brumfield and Blythe, sort of in the mid pack of the Pro-Am field. But unfortunately for him, that battle has come to an end, unfortunately, and that'll be the end of his season. So yeah, Coombe, like I said, is really kind of, I mean, he has to win this race to get what he needs in the championship now, and Pontecorvi, all he has to do is complete, I'm pretty sure, something like 3 more laps, and he will have met the race distance that actually, because Meisner's still in the pits, so he's perfectly safe on that. So even if he crashed out, that would be it. So all he's got to do is just complete the lap counts to get full points, and that should be Pontecorvi's championship crown. And then all we'd have left is Alpole and Hooper. But again, Alpole would have to have something drastically go wrong. But it still can happen. It's not out of the question. It's just unlikely. But you still can never say never with these kind of things. So it can all change in the blink of an eye in a championship sometimes, even if you think you're safe.
As that Ferrari of On Blythe that we are looking at the moment looks to have been in quite a bit of a war here. If we just take a look at the front again, he is that is the new downforce tactic. We were talking about that some of the cars may be getting a downforce overhaul. That might be looking at the Ferrari's new tactic, where they're just, taking a bit of weight off and just removing the front end entirely.
Yeah, I don't think personally that's going to work quite as well. I mean, those engine components probably aren't as aerodynamic as a bonnet by itself would be, so Ferrari might need to go back on the drawing board with that one.
They
Perhaps,
don't have any cooling issues, I think, here.
That's true. But they might want to stop hiring their F1 engineers to do their GT cars if that's what they think a good aero package is. So,
as we have somebody off.
Ooh.
That
Brumfield that has it's Merlin Cooper. Sorry, that has
Cooper has gone a little bit off there, but I think Merlin Cooper here. Just the car just not turning into turn 1 and hitting that ice grab. It is green, but it is ice, and is that he's trying to get back onto the track without doing any damage to anybody else, and great drive by Mr. Cooper there. And it's so easy to be, I need to really just get away from here, but more often than not you're just damaging yourself and others race by getting into a dangerous position there.
Yeah, I mean, it was the same thing with Cooper on that early incident with Blair Mann. Although the contact wasn't his fault, he was playing it very risky.
Oh, Brumfield is off.
Oh, Brumfield, having a spin there. Actually, he's going side by side. in the chicane. Brumfield goes around the outside, skips the chicane, car gets loose, and then as the tarmac, as the surface changes to tarmac, the car just spins around, pivots him, and that's the position gone. As he's now looking to try and lap Alessandro Pontecorvi, who's made his way up into 4th position, which is pretty much, I think that is the definitive seal on a championship. There is pretty much nothing anyone can do about it anymore, so he's pretty much sat in the box seat for winning the AM Championship, which is a good result for him. I don't think he's really ever looked back at the people behind him. He's kind of just taken a commanding lead, started the season with a win, and just hasn't really looked back, other than perhaps Spa where he had a few issues, but other than that, been in the top 4 in every race he started. So commanding performance from Pontecorvi. Coombe tried as much as he could, but with a DNF in Sebring and not qualifying here today, I think possibly are the 2 biggest factors in not being able to make up the ground in the championship.
As Broomfield looks to... No, that was the one before it just popped up and down. I thought something happened there, but yeah, just a little bit now where the race is in a bit of a standstill, and some announcements that is gonna go on, because we are planning slowly for next season, and as we have talked about earlier, there will be one more car on the track. We are getting the C8 in here, so that's gonna be interesting. But also that we are starting quite early. They are at the moment looking to see if we can get maybe a week 1. Nothing is confirmed yet, but signups will start very, very, very soon. So everybody, and I will say it again at the end, keep an eye out on the forums, because more information about the next season will be there very soon, and some small changes to, as we have alluded to, the fuels, and there will be some small overall changes to some of the rules, but overall the GTE League will stay the GTE League. We have a good format here with the qualifying classes and races, so it's gonna be more of the great same, but new cars with the overall downforce and wings change. It might mix up the field completely.
Yeah, we will have to see whether dirty air perhaps would be playing more of a part, where the slipstream becomes more powerful. Also in the lead battle, you can see the gap has just crept up a little bit more to around 1.7 seconds. Actually, Bennett's car, as you can see, is very... he's got a slight issue with his front right there. It's definitely more damage than it was before, so I don't know whether that was curb, whether it was wall in the pit lane at some point or something, but something has slightly bent that car even more, and I think he's really struggling now. I mean, he is closing on Andy, but it might just be a little bit too little too late, as I think there'll be around 3 or 4 laps to go at the end of this one, so he's got a lot of ground to make up, and actually he's losing a lot of time on the straight there. He was quite close to Gorton, and then Gorton just just gained so much time on him on that back straight that I just don't think, even if Bennett gets close enough, he's going to be able to overtake, because he's just not got the car to do it now.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if Bennett is going to, he has always had the 111, and now he can, take that number on a little bit of a cure and lose a couple of numbers there.
Well, he likes having the all ones, and he could still keep the all ones, but just have a singular one instead.
Yeah,
it's still technically all ones, and we'll have to see his decision on that when sign-ups open for next season, and he'll have to make his choice on car number if he so chooses the number 1 from that. So we'll have to see what he chooses on that. I think this is still
that was still there.
Clearly some technical issue with the program that yeah, Brumfield is definitely still not having the same incident over and over like it's Groundhog Day. So
no, it's just me thinking, oh, something happened. No, it's
no,
the same one. Yeah, no, but yeah, it's on Bennett's car to actually be able to see the number 1, because in this font the number 1 is not that wide. It's actually the number itself is almost twice as wide as the number 1 on every other cars. Just to be able to see the number there, so he has a special size in his number there.
Well, I'm sure he will take a lot of pride in that, and also I think one interesting thing as well about the number 1 was it was last season, of course, Mr. Woodford was running the number 1 after winning the championship, and he said that he could tell that it makes a bit of a difference on the relative when you say you're out of position or something, and a driver behind sees the number 1 car come up behind it. It kind of sends a lot more of a signal than a number 100 or something, and it is actually quite a powerful factor in that. It sends the signal of, yeah, this is the guy that won the championship last season, so he's pretty quick. So you might want to move out of the way of him there, as we've got Matthias and Blythe fighting over P7 in the Pro-Ams. That's very, very close. Sorry, it was Brumfield and Matthias fighting. I beg your pardon, and Brumfield actually gets the position there on Victor Matthias, moves himself up into 8th position, and that's the lapped car onto Corvey behind, so they don't have to worry about him in their battle. So
Matthias defended there. Brumfield were in front at the beginning of that battle, but yeah, it's a great battle, and both of them were, a lot of respect between each other getting into that chicane, because that could have ended in tears, as the lead pack is coming up close and fierce and fast up to them here, as we see the flashing of headlights from Bennett behind. You are allowed to do that, of course, to just signal that a faster driver comes up here. But just to get back to your talk about the number 1, I actually don't think that anybody has won the season championship. I'm not sure if Woodford had the number 1 in his second season.
He only had 101, but he didn't have just 1.
Yeah, so nobody has actually won the championship with the number 1 only on their car, because even though that Mr. Holstein has won the championship twice as well, he has always stayed with his number 109 as well.
Personally, can I just say that I also hate the fact that Chris's number is the number 9, because that's my number as well. So I think there were a couple of seasons where we've raced against each other and we've been fighting over that number 9. So
he has had that number, I think. As Alpol has been, there's a shift is just getting a little bit of a notch into the chicane there, as he's just spinning off Alpol.
That is not what you want to do as you're fighting for your championship. I mean, you're pretty safe, but you're still not 100% safe. So just gotta try and keep it on the track. Don't bin it in a wall, because it's still not safe for you just yet. As we've got Lotus in the pit lane, I'm presuming that's for probably a penalty, or unless it's for out of field. No, it's for a penalty. Lotus has picked up 19x. He's the only person to... Oh, sorry, Schiff also has crossed the instant limit, which is... when we say about how good of a day he was having, that's not really what you want to see. So, yeah, he might have got it.
Gordon has just crossed the finish line to win, but the time is actually over.
Yeah, it's because it was so close.
Yeah.
He crossed the line on 1 hour, 20 minutes, .175. So we weren't really expecting that. He just crossed it right on the time limit. That is Andy Gorton winning the race, with Alex Bennett taking the championship. Tom Hooper takes P1 in the Pro-Ams, but he's not going to be able to usurp Dan Alpol, who will shortly come across the line behind Alexei Seleznev, who is currently on your screen. He's about 7 seconds behind Alexei. And coming across the line now is Dan Alpol. A flash of the lights to signal that he has won the Pro-Am Championship, and of course, because of lapped cars and whatever, Luca Lodato wins the AM category from Koen Van Eyck. Our runner-up in the AM category, Thomas Kuhn, tried all he could, but unfortunately for him, it wasn't enough. And Alessandro Pontecorvi, finishing P4th, will take the AM Championship away as we just wait for, I think, Owen Blythe will be our last man to be out on track so far this season. And there we go.
And let's see if this has been updated. We will go to first. Oh, I see, Christian, the results for today.
And so there are your overall standings, with Gorton P1, Bennett P2, and Escapers rounding off the podium. Hooper 4th, taking that Pro-Am win. Halliwell 5th, Hogan out 6th, Selesny 7th, Alpol 8th, Edens 9th, and Marvin Sluman rounding off the top 10. Only, I think that's 14 cars on the lead lap, which is what you expect at a short circuit like this. So drivers doing very, very, to be fair, honestly, very well to actually keep 14 cars on the lead lap somewhere like here, especially in a multi-class race at a tricky track that is also very short. So very good job from them. And obviously, like I said, Luca Lodato taking that win from Koen Van Eyck, and Alessandro Pontecorvi and Thomas Kuhn, who are fighting for that championship. And then behind them, we have Merlin Cooper rounding off the finishers, and then Smith, Schmidt, Meisner, Verkamp, Walder, Edward, Reyes, Ash Russell, Darius Sassu, Daniele Mamano, and Blair Mann all did not finish, and Naglik did not start.
And just to get a confirmation on your championship, I think they
those look right. Those look like they are correct. So that is definitely
for.
Actually, I think they've been updated to today's. They were what we went into the race with.
Yeah, I'm just looking to see if I can get this to do this and send in. Yeah.
There we go. So Pontecorvi is your AM champion from Thomas Kuhn. We put up a valiant effort to try and take that crown away, but unfortunately for him, Pontecorvi was just out in front all season and just couldn't quite make up the final difference that he needed. Koen Van Eyck, with a late surge up the order, finally finishes in third position with an overtake on Mamano in the championship, who finishes 4th. Lodato rounds up the top 5 in the championship on 86 points there. Moving on to the Pro-Am Championship, Dan Alpol takes that one away from Tom Hooper. Only 10 points in the end. I mean, Alpol looking very sketchy on the last couple of laps with that spin and whatever, not really having the exact champion mentality, but still in the end gets him the win. Selesnev with a late charge up to third positions from 5th before this race, with Blythe and Broomfield, who were so commanding at the start of the season, relegated to 4th and 5th. And then moving on to the Pro Championship, Mr. Alex Bennett takes a win. Like I said, 1 year after his Pro-Am victory, he now takes the overall Pro Championship away from away from James Pinsker, who obviously wasn't here to defend his title, and ahead of his teammate of Blair Mann and then Rainer Talvar, who had such a great start to the season, but with issues and whatever, decided to pull out from the league and pretty much leave the two comrade drivers up front to fight it out, and Bennett coming out on top.
Yeah, and that is your confirmation for the championship. It has been really close with some great battling out there and some great racing. Unfortunately, we have had a lot of drivers pulling out lately on, maybe that, getting back to the life after this thing has, some have been not having the time, and unfortunately the update might not have been serving everybody. But with the new update, the new cars and everything, we hope to see a lot more out there and a lot more drivers. And if you, after seeing this, are interested to see if if you want to drive with these drivers, just please look on the AOR forums, and we will also try and be more noticeable on the iRacing forums to to promote this league a bit and just join. It's a good community. It's some fun races and great races, as we are having some drivers in for that want to have a bit of a talk with us. Should we start with our champion, Mr. Pontecorvi?
Shall we do that? Indeed.
And joining us in the box is Alexander Pontecorvi.
Hello, good evening. Good evening,
Of course.
everyone.
Of course, you are now our AM champion for this season, which is obviously, first of all, congratulations on accomplishing that feat. Obviously, a bit sketchy at points. You were down in sort of 7th position, I think, at one point, but still managed to make up the positions you need and keep the title. Did it ever look in doubt? Maybe at that point, were you a bit nervous about it, or was it kind of just get to the end of the race and I think I might still be able to pull this through?
No, this race was quite nice and calculated from my side. First of all, I don't like Road Atlanta a lot so much, so I knew that I didn't have the pace to keep in front my car, and then I saw that Combi did a bad quali. So, yeah, I was quite confident in this race, but before Sebring I wasn't sure because Combe did a fantastic season. Congratulations to him. Was a very fast guy, and Daniele Mammano, my teammate, of course, he had a terrible table night this evening and a few other races. Otherwise, I think it was the fastest one.
Yeah, we have seen him had some bad luck in the championship with especially was it Road America where he hit a car. But more importantly, are you looking forward to a new season? We are hopefully getting started very soon. There's a bit of a announcement coming out very soon. Are you gonna do the Corvette, or are you gonna try and look at all the cars and pick out of that?
Of course, we are gonna try the Corvette and the new P2 as well. Regarding the new season, I wanted to thank the whole team, the AOR and the staff made the broadcast. Are doing great job, really. But for the next season, me and Daniele Mammano, we will participate in a NASCAR competition, and they are in the Italian Championship, Chin, and they are also racing on Mondays evening. So we will take a break from AOR, but we will come back. That's for sure.
We will definitely welcome you back with open arms, and we want to wish you luck in your NASCAR endeavors. Then.
Thank you, Niclas.
So thank you, and see you soon.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye. So let's hear from our Pro-Am champion, Mr. Dan Alpol. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
A champion. How does it feel?
I don't know. Kind of, weird. I've not won anything in so long, so.
Do you have anything here, Mr. Clay?
Well, obviously, another really good performance from you today. A little bit sketchy towards the end of the race with that spin late on, but still, you've shown yourself to be really capable so far this season. You've made a lot of progress as well up the order. So there have been a lot of claims that perhaps you and Tom, especially, should be moved up into the pro category, especially for next season. If you are thinking about signing up for next season, do you think those claims are valid, or do you have any sort of final defense as to why you should stay where you are?
Well, you know, I should have probably been moved up together with Cass, Philip, and Craig, because I died in the first 3 races, so there wasn't really. I did spar with damage on the track with a lot of top speed, so that wasn't really good, representation of my pace. I died on the first lap in Imola, and I did not get any laps in for Suzuka, and I still qualified P4, which turned out to be pole. So I was kind of surprised I wasn't moved up together with him, so I can kind of see why we should have been moved up to pro earlier in the season. But yeah, I'll be fine next season, I guess, because I won't be winning races, but I'll be around Michael Edens, John Halliwell, like I've been all season this season as well.
So now with you saying that, we can then assume that you will be with us next season. Then I want to ask you the question that I asked Asponto Corvi. So with the new Corvette coming in, is that a car that you're looking to, or with the rumored new change to all the cars, are you more looking to try all of them and decide, or how's it gonna be?
Sadly, I kind of have to say it won't be the BMW or the Ford, because they're not in both series. So I feel like, because I can't do setups myself, at all, I'll be at a disadvantage if I drive one of those. And knowing I'll be in pro, like, car choice basically means whichever one of the remaining 3 is the quickest. Because if you drive the slowest one because you like it, you're not going to be competitive, which makes it no fun. And knowing how iRacing works, the Corvette's probably going to be OP. So 90% chance I'll be driving the Corvette next season, yeah.
It's good. So we congratulations again, and we're looking forward to seeing you, and keep an eye on the forums. There will hopefully come some announcements about the next season soon.
Yeah, thank you. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, so see you next time.
See ya.
So let's hear from our overall PO championship. Let's Mr. Clay, do you want to take this one?
Yep, so in the commentary box right about now is going to be joining Mr. Alex Bennett, our champion of the pro category, after, like we've already said, 1 year after winning the Pro-Am category. I mean, obviously probably a bit nervous alongside your teammate going into turn 1, but obviously not exactly the way you'd want to win the championship, but you've won it nonetheless. So what are you kind of going through right now?
Yeah, it's a little bit bittersweet, I'd say. Obviously for Blair to crash out on the first lap was, I think unfortunate for pretty much everyone, but I was confident going in that my pace was pretty good. And yeah, I mean, I'm just knackered after that race, to be honest. That track for 80 minutes is just exhausting. So yeah, I mean, it's been, I think, a really, really good season. The racing has been excellent pretty much the whole way through, and I'd like to say well done to Blair for for his season as well, because he's driven brilliantly pretty much all season. So yeah, well done to him.
Obviously, we've already asked these questions to the other two before, but I mean, first of all, will you be returning next season? I presume you will, but obviously there is the possibility that you wouldn't. And if you are, what are your opinions on cars? Of course, we've got the Corvette coming, so does that take your fancy, or are you gonna keep with the Bimmer, or are you gonna try a completely different venture?
Well, I definitely plan on racing next season. Unless iRacing completely destroy the tire model like they've done sometimes in the past. But yeah, no, I definitely should be racing next season. As for car choice, I really have no idea. I mean, allegedly there's talks of a new tire model, or at least an updated tire model coming. Plus you would assume some balancer performance as well. So yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, I don't think it certainly won't be the Ford. I don't think it'll be the BMW either, because it's not an ILMS. And obviously we don't know what the calendar is yet, but I would assume it's going to be probably mostly ILMS based. So BMW might be tricky with that, but for the other cars, I mean, I think it just depends on what is both fun and competitive. I'll definitely give the Corvette a shot, but as to whether I'll drive it, I'm not really sure yet.
And just to that point, at least from what I've heard, it's a overall downforce redone, and not tire model per se. Tire model should be for prototype cars, apparently.
Yeah, I definitely heard a rumor about there being some kind of tire update for GTEs as well as the Aero update, but I haven't really looked into it.
Could update a lot of it. A question as well is, now we have seen that you have been driving with the 111. Now that you're champion, are you gonna go for the number 1, or and be maybe the first driver to actually try and defend a championship with that particular number?
What, have neither Chris or Ross taken it? Yeah, I'll probably take it for next season. Yeah, sure.
None of them has defended the championship with that number, and Chris has not had it yet.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I just want to say as well, before I get punted out of the comms box, just a huge, I think I can say this on behalf of all the drivers, just a huge thank you, first of all, to the staff members for making this season happen, and then also to you guys in the commentary box and Braden for an excellent season of broadcasts, and yeah, we're all very, very grateful for it, so thank you, lads.
Yeah, no problem.
Certainly was a pleasure, and also well done on your championship ventures, and hopefully you could give us a fight again next season. Thank you, Mr. Bennett.
Cheers.
And I think that will pretty much wrap us up for today, Nick. Obviously, I mean, I've got to say a goodbye to all of you, unfortunately. I mean, it's been a really fun 3 seasons that I've had in the commentary booth, but unfortunately I will be moving on at the end of this broadcast now because of just a lot of stuff changing in my life at the moment. But yeah, it's been so much fun, and I've learned so much. I hadn't commentated before I started here, so I hope that I haven't been too bad of a commentator, and that, yeah. And I'm just so happy to have learned everything I had, especially with the times, especially things like with Kodiak. I mean, there's nobody, I'm sure Nick can testify as well, there's nobody better to have alongside you in the commentary box. And Braden has been such a wonder to have this season as well. And of course, you, Nick, doing all you can to get this broadcast up and running. I mean, it looked like we weren't even going to have one this season, and we've managed to turn that around. And so, yeah, it's a goodbye, but I leave on a happy note, and yeah, I've really enjoyed my time here. So I want to say thank you to everybody. It's such an amazing league to commentate on, and some great talent as well. So yeah, thank you all.
And I can say from myself and Brandon, and I also had a chat with King yesterday. Actually, I want to say thank you for joining us and saving us a little bit as well with being in the box, and thank you for all your great analysis and things that you have attributed to with over the past seasons, and it has been a pleasure to have you in the box, and it has definitely worked a lot better now when you're only 2 guys in the box, so it has been a pleasure working with you and have you on here with the AOR family. And just on that note, again, I want to point out to everybody that we are gonna have a season 12, and on the forums and Discord channels, and we will also be on the iRacing forums. We will have more news on it coming very, very, very soon. We hope to, without kind of just taking too much and spoil too much, some announcement will hopefully happen before the update. So should be tomorrow, yesterday, that there will be some sort of update, hopefully. So yeah, there's really nothing more than saying thank you for a great season, and hope to see you all in the next one. And again, thank you, Mr. James.
You're completely and utterly welcome, and yeah, it's good night from me as well. And I hope that you will return for next season to tune in and see what I'm sure will be another brilliant championship.
And good night.